This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 103 of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Kinsey Roberts. Thank you for being here today. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are in the world. Looking forward to sharing this interview with you with Sacoya Jenkins. Before I do that, I have a couple of quick, you know how when people always have like a couple of announcements, they call it housekeeping? Is that just me? Did I make that up? I don't feel like I did. I feel like people say that. Like, I have a couple of housekeeping items, which I do. So wanted to let you know that I've been considering taking the podcast down from 2 episodes per week to 1 episode per week, especially in peak season that's coming up for us here starting next month in April, peak season coming up at the venue. So I'm tinkering with it. It's not official yet, but I'll totally let you know if I decide to do that. If I do decide to do that, what I'm thinking is that I will air episodes on Thursdays, and they're going to be a little bit longer. They're going to be more like maybe 45 minutes to an hour consistently. I've certainly had episodes that have lasted that long previously, even though most of my episodes hover right around 30 minutes. But I think I might extend the time of the interview and also just air on Thursday. So just so you know, that could be coming up. Like I said, it's not official yet, but I wanted to give you that heads up sooner rather than later because you are all amazing and I appreciate you listening. The other thing I wanted to remind you of is now that we are getting into peak season, now that things are really starting to gear up, not for everybody. And actually, that's a good point because Sacoya, my guest today, her peak season isn't in the summer, which is interesting because she's in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we actually talk about that. But for a lot of us, we're getting into the busy time of the year for weddings, and I want to remind you that the opt-in shop is open. All of our opt-in email bundles are in there. They're available in 5 different colors, so you can choose the color that fits your brand the best. While you're working on weddings this summer, I know it can be hard to balance marketing and building your email list and weddings and client work and everything. And so why not, make a couple of email funnels, put them kind of on autopilot, get those great opt-ins, offer them to your brides, offer them to your couples, offer them on your website, and let that work for you while you are working for weddings. You can find those over on my website at shecreatesbusinesspodcast.com/shop. So let me know if you have any questions about those. And to all of you who have already purchased, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And I also have a little bit of a book update. So it is, if you ordered my book, you also got an email that said back in the late winter that said, hey, crazy 2017, 2018 are looking crazy already. Can we delay? And everyone, except for a couple people, which I totally understood, it was either like, let me know if it's okay to delay or let me know if you want a refund. And a couple of people wanted a refund, which is great. And mostly everyone didn't. So the book is delayed, but it's coming, and it's coming here in the next couple of months. I want to get it out before we really dig into wedding season. So wanted to let you know that that's coming up. If you purchased the book in advance, thank you. Really appreciate you. And it's coming up. I don't have a solid publishing date yet, but you will be the first to know when I do. It's no longer available for pre-order, but I tell you what, once it's ready and published, I'll let you know. So those are all of the announcements that I have for today. I also wanted to let you guys know, if you know someone who would be an amazing guest for the show, I do accept guest pitches. I know not a lot of podcasts do, but I do. And as long as the pitch is intentional, well thought out, and detailed and very specific, I love reading those kinds of pitches. So if you know someone, if you're interested in coming on the show, don't hesitate to email me. It does take me a little bit to get back to those. The email is kind of building up in my inbox, but I always get back to everybody one way or another. So I'd love for you to shoot me an email or send me a friend recommendation or a recommendation of a friend who you think would be a great guest. Just keep in mind that they really need to be super intentional, very specific, and extremely detailed so that it helps me decide whether or not, decide when's a good time to bring them on the show, if it's a good fit, etc. Hope you understand. Cool. Let me tell you about Sacoya Jenkins. She is the owner and lead certified wedding planner behind Jenkins & Co. Wedding Coordination, a wedding planning company for the modern yet classy and sophisticated bride. She is based in Charlotte, North Carolina, as I mentioned. Sacoya has a passion for building true sisterhood, and that's very apparent in this podcast episode. She, in both business and life, she loves making new girlfriends. Wedding planning has become her love for organization, sisterhood, and all things love. She's super passionate about true love and celebrating the precious journey of marriage. When she isn't planning weddings, Sacoya enjoys spending time with her husband, Marcus, on a romantic date night or binge watching their favorite shows, brunching with her best girlfriends on Sunday afternoons, enjoying all of the mimosas and anything Kate Spade inspired, of course. You can find her at jenkinsandcoweddings.com or on Instagram at jenkinsandcoweddings. I really enjoyed this episode because Sacoya takes a really interesting approach to her planning. She talks about ways she wants, no matter what package her couples purchase, she talks about the way she wants them to feel the same. She doesn't want anyone to feel less if they've purchased a lower price package. And I thought that was a really interesting take on stuff. But we also dig into then, okay, how do you differentiate your packages? And this is part of the New to Business series. And so we really go into how she started her business, how she's managing being a teacher with her planning business, which is interesting because in my mind, I was thinking, well, that's great. You're a teacher. So the summertime you're off. And those are all when you have all of your weddings. But that's actually not true, as I mentioned, because summer is not really peak season in North Carolina. So we talk about that. She tells us how she got certified and how she's been in business for about a year, what being certified has done for her. And she got certified through the Bridal Society, which we've talked about that before. I had Chrissy Thomas Parker on the podcast, and she talked all about the Bridal Society. So head back to that episode if you're interested in really learning distinctly about certification. But Sacoya tells us what that has done for her. I want you guys to, let's see, what was I about to tell you? Oh, I forgot. That's okay. Let's go to the show. If you all have any questions, there's a couple of resources mentioned, like books and other things, and those are all in the show notes of this episode. So let me know if you have any other questions. Otherwise, without further ado, let's chat with Sacoya. Sacoya, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kinsey. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to this. We have been touching base on Instagram and via email, and now I'm just so happy to finally have you on the show so we can do another New to Business episode, which, well, we kind of just chatted about this offline. I have been loving this series, and I know this is going to be no exception. You guys don't know this, but I literally just told Sacoya, like, I'm so excited for your episode and everything we're going to talk about, so I'm just going to turn it right around and air it the next day.
Yay! So excited.
Yay! Well, hey, you know that at the beginning of the episode, as I always do, I shared that professional bio of yours. So everybody has a pretty good idea where you're coming from. But what I know is that I want to dig into this a little bit first. I know that you really didn't want to be an entrepreneur, but now you own your own wedding planning business. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yes. So I always feel so weird when I meet other entrepreneurs because everybody's like, oh, I've been selling lemonade since I was 3, and I just always knew, and I'm just always like, oh my gosh, I totally did not know. I went to college and became a teacher and did all of the things your mom and dad tell you to do. Yes. And then I kind of fell into wedding planning, and then even when I started, I didn't even think it was a business. I was just like, I just like doing this. I'm just gonna do this. And my husband's like, okay, let's just do this. And then I just suddenly had an LLC and just had a business. And it's just so funny because I just wasn't the traditional entrepreneur who always knew for ever.
Mm-hmm. So what were you doing how did you fall into it? Did you plan your own wedding or your friend's wedding, or what did that look like exactly?
Well, that's also very interesting. So I actually was planning my own wedding. Okay. And about 2 months before my wedding, I was sitting on the couch and I was like, wow, this is so fun and so easy for me. And I think I'm going to start a business. And my husband's like, okay, what are you going to be doing? And I was like, I think I want to be a wedding planner. He's like, okay. So our wedding is in 2 months. And I actually created my website. I'm such a sayer and doer. Mm-hmm. So I said it, and then I created a website, booked my first bride, and actually my first wedding was the weekend after my wedding, and the second weekend after that I had my second wedding. So I just kind of started so fast, and I'm just hitting the ground running.
Whoa, okay, you were totally in the game. That's a lot. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
tell me, so why were you like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. Were you just having so much fun planning your own wedding, or you enjoyed the details? What was it that made you say, well, geez, I'm going to start a business?
I've always kind of been really organized and I've always like been the planner friend, my family and as a friend. So I've kind of always done it like unofficially.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I actually started planning my own wedding and then just the process that I went through, even getting closer to like my girlfriends and like, I was just like, wow, this is such a meaningful time in a woman's life. And like, I love making friends. And so I was like, I would really love to help other women through that process. So it was a mixture of like, the organization and just the fun of it, and then also just wanting to be that person for other women. Like it's such a crazy time and it's so emotional and you just go through so much. And I was like, wow, I would love to like help other women through this process.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. I like that. Well, when you said you're like, oh, all of a sudden I had an LLC, what were you doing kind of professionally at the time, if anything? Are you still doing that? What does that look like for you as, while you're being a planner?
Yeah, so I was a teacher and I'm still currently a teacher. So I
Cool.
still am a teacher during the day. And like I said, I was just kind of always organized and I'm always like doing research and like it's just part of my nature being a teacher. So the moment that I felt like I wanted to kind of start my business, I was like, okay, let me just figure out like what do I need to do here. So I kind of looked up just how to start a business in my area and just filed for my LLC. And then like I had like the worst website ever that I made on like GoDaddy. It was so terrible. Like, it was awful. It was so bad. But I booked like two of like my best brides ever with that website. So I just literally like Googled things and just started.
Okay, that's such a teacher thing of you to do, and I love it. So how did you find those first two clients?
I actually created my website and they found me. I didn't have social media like in terms of my business yet.
Mm-hmm.
I was still kind of using my personal Instagram, and so between Instagram and like my GoDaddy website, they they found me, and I did the typical Panera Bread interview with them, and they booked me, and it was awesome. Like they literally the Saturday after my wedding was my first bride. It was amazing.
That is amazing and crazy,
I
kind of
know,
too.
it's so crazy.
How did you even deal with that? Did you just do day of coordination for them, or what?
Yes. So
Okay,
I
cool.
started off just offering day of coordination because
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it was just easier to just kind of get my feet wet and I was still trying to figure out like my way through. And so I did day of coordination and I mean it was just I don't know, I think because I'm so passionate about building relationships with women, like I just really found out what they needed and what they were going through at the time and I was just there for them and it was so easy. Like it was my favorite. Those are like two of my favorite weddings.
Isn't that interesting how all you had to do was like build those relationships, and not all you had to do, I mean, you worked your butt off, but isn't it interesting how you showed up in a real capacity, like, hey, I'm here for you as the person and not just to organize your vendors, and that really sounds like it made all the difference.
Yeah, I think that's probably the my most favorite part of my business. Like I'm definitely logistical. I'm definitely all about like handling business, but I'm definitely also all about building relationships with people
Mm-hmm.
and just helping them along their journey.
I like that a lot. I want to touch on client experience a lot more. But one thing I know about you is that you became certified.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so actually this month, March, is my 1 year like anniversary of being certified.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of started my business a little before that when I had my little GoDaddy website. That was terrible.
I love how we keep
And
labeling that the GoDaddy website.
oh
Like,
my gosh, it was so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so terrible. Like now when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did they even book me? Um, but I was, the teacher in me, and like I've, like I said, I've never really wanted to be an entrepreneur, so I always just felt like I need to like have some more stuff behind my name. So I found the Bridal Society because I had been following a couple of other planners that I felt were like really professional, and I just loved the way like they presented themselves, just on social media. And I actually decided to take the course just because I felt like it would help me feel a little bit more confident. Because even though I was confident in like building relationships, I know that I'm organized and all those things. I still kind of wanted to have something else to help solidify. my position, as a wedding planner. So I decided to take the course, and it was literally amazing. Like the best 2 days, I think, ever. Like it was very intentional. Some things, of course, I had already been doing and already knew, but just the community around it that she builds even after the course has really been helpful in my business.
So give us a few more details about that. So we do know a lot about the Bridal Society. I had Chrissy Thomas Parker on the podcast, and she talked to us about the Bridal Society specifically, but I would love, and she's an educator with the Bridal Society, but I would love for you to just tell us more from your perspective. What are maybe just one or two solid examples of something that you learned there that you kind of took back into your own business and implemented, or even just something that you learned where you were able to say, I'm doing that and that is working well, and I'm glad to have kind of that affirmation?
Yeah, well, first thing, Lori, who is the founder of the Bridal Society, she's really big on just being authentic and building relationships. And I think that naturally I already had that within me. Like I'm a teacher, and I'm just genuinely just love building relationships with people. But Lori just really honed in on the fact that like your business is like you are your business. And so it's not just about being able to do a timeline and being able to talk to vendors. Like you actually have to genuinely be concerned and care and love on people. And I think that she does that not just through the course, but like she does that forever. Like she's constantly pouring into us. We have a Facebook group, and she's constantly giving us like all this free content, and she's like always encouraging our businesses. Like she'll like leave comments after, weddings that we've done. And so just constantly having people that support you and that truly value you as a person and a human, I think is one of the biggest things that I learned. And it helped me just even with my brides and client experience.
So she's really leading by example.
Yes. Oh, totally.
Lori's awesome. I've exchanged a couple of emails with her, and yeah, I really love her.
She's really awesome. I mean, you meet her and you feel like you've known her for like, she's like the mama bear.
The mama bear. Oh,
such a mama bear.
What do you think getting certified, if anything, and I'm sure, it feels like it did give you more confidence, and so you achieved that goal, but what do you think getting certified did for your business? Is there anything that you can really connect it to and say, because I got certified in my first, well, I guess tell me what year you started your business.
So for me, I say officially after I got certified. So like March of last year. So it's like my 1 year kind of anniversary.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you've been certified basically the whole time.
Yeah, well, I started like a little bit before when I had my, my GoDaddy website. But I actually had like a different name, and I didn't really have my brand solidified at that time. So after I got certified is when I really started to like look at myself as a brand and start to market in a certain kind of way. So that's when I really like feel like I became a business owner. Before that, it was more like a hobby, and I was just kind of like, hey, I was just playing around with the idea.
So I think that switch in mindset is a huge part of like the trajectory of our businesses is, I was kind of playing around and I had a hobby and now I feel like a real business owner, which then leads us to make different decisions in our business than we did. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that.
So what do you like encourage other people to get certified? Do you feel like it's necessary, or do you feel like you could run your business without having that certification?
I definitely feel like I definitely encourage people to get certified just because, of course, we all know that we can, we live in America, we can like start a business however we want. Totally. But I feel like when you have such a strong leadership and mentorship that you go through, it kind of helps to save you from all the Google, like we're all using Google. We're all reading all the blogs, downloading all the free everything. I went through the same thing, and I still sometimes do, right? But when you meet people who have been there, who have been in the trenches, and they've done this thing that you're wanting to do, and they've done it for 20 years or however long, I just feel like it's really important to really find, your niche and find people that you feel comfortable with. But definitely, I would definitely suggest just the education part of it, because if you don't, like, it's just really hard to know, like, okay, what do I do? What does day of look like in comparison to partial planning? Like, how far out should I be booking a month of bride, or just all of those little questions that like you really can't answer by yourself behind your laptop, you know?
Yeah. It sounds like it's still kind of your go-to for continuing education. Do you do which, I'm sure it is. And then what else do you do to kind of like stay up on what's happening in the industry and to help you like hone your skills as a planner, especially for all of those people out there who like just started or who haven't even started yet? What are you doing to continue to become a better planner?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, again, it goes back to just knowing people in the industry who have done what you've done. So I actually heard about this podcast from Chrissy. She like posted it in our like Bridal Society forum like one day, like a couple of months ago. And literally the moment she posted it, I binge listened to like 50 episodes. No lie.
Oh my gosh.
And
I love that.
had it not been for that community of people, I probably would have not ever heard of it because I mean, I'm self-employed, so like I don't really, talk to that many wedding planners.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, knowing people who are going through the same process. So definitely She Creates Business has been like my jam.
I paid her to say that. Just kidding.
There's a couple of other like planners that I started following when I really started to figure out like who I was and what my brand was. So like Kat Schmoyer, definitely have done some continuing education, just like courses through her online course she offers. And I just kind of try to find people that I feel like match my kind of vision and like my type of, I guess, business. And I usually follow those people and kind of see what education they're doing. And then I'll kind of like pick and choose based on, what I'm going through in the season of my business.
So smart and super intentional. I like that.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched on this. Let's dig in here. Well, you've talked about it a lot. You have so many cool resources, and you told me, and when you and I chatted over email, that you love the tribe that you have, like that you've developed as you become a wedding planner. And I like just felt it through your words. I was like, oh my gosh, she really does. And I think that's so special. And it's hard. It can be hard to find, I think. It can be hard to find people that you really feel comfortable being yourself with. And I would love for you to shed some light on like your tribe and how you found them and why they're so special to you and to your business. If you could kind of like just give us that high level overview and maybe just a few pointers for people in any stage of business. Because you know what? I think that even if you've been in business for 10, 15 years, there's always opportunity to connect with others and build those really meaningful relationships.
Yes, I am such like, I wasn't always the girl who like always had girlfriends. Like, you know how there's those girls that are like, oh, I don't like girls. Like I only have guy friends. I'm like, no, I'm such a girl's girl.
Gosh,
so
I used to be one of those people.
Totally make friends so easily. And it's so funny because one of my really, really close friends, I guess she's part of my tribe. She's a wedding planner and we also got certified at the same time. And when we first started, like we would just always like send questions to each other and like just back and forth. And one day she was like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool that we have each other because like there are so many planners that just don't have each other. So I would just always recommend to anyone, wherever you are in business, reach out to people, like comment on people's Instagrams, just be genuinely nice to people because not only do you have people that can cheer you on, but you also have people that can hold you accountable. And accountability is such a big thing for me. And not just accountability, but also just growth. Like I learned so much from other people through talking, through sharing stories, memories. And like I've just met so many, like even wedding planners. I met this one wedding planner. She like reached out to me on Instagram and she's like, oh, I just moved to your city. Like we should totally like get up for like coffee. I'm like, oh, sure, totally. And it turned out that she had actually worked for Wedding Wire in the sales department. And just like the conversation, like she had given me so many tips on like just closing the deal. And I was like, oh my gosh, had I not met her, I would have never learned that. Like there's just so many pointers and just positive things that you can get from building like true, genuine relationships with people. And I feel like in the wedding industry, especially when I first got started, it was like, okay, you need to meet people. But like the goal of meeting people was so that you can get clients. Like it wasn't really about like building genuine relationships. And I realized that when I started building these genuine relationships, like my business grew even more than I feel like it would have grown if I was just meeting people just to like make the connection to possibly get a client, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. How did you, are you naturally extroverted?
No, I'm not an extrovert. That is so funny. So people that meet me think I'm an extrovert. My husband says I am, but I feel like I'm an introverted extrovert, if that's the thing.
It's totally a thing now. You can be whatever you want. Well, I asked because how did you feel comfortable reaching out to people? Do you like wait for people to come to you? I feel like you reached out to people. How did you feel comfortable with that right away?
I don't think I was comfortable right away, but I think after meeting a few people who were comfortable doing it to me first, I was like, you know what? What do I have to lose? Like, I'm a genuine person, and I typically think that people are good when I meet them, and so I'm like, what's wrong with like reaching out to people to say hey? Like, you just never know like where that could lead, and it's led me in so many amazing places so far in my business, and I'm like, I'm just willing to take a chance.
Do you feel like your joining the Bridal Society has been a good networking opportunity for you as well? Like, have you built those true relationships in there? It feels like you have.
Yeah, one of my really, really, really close friends, her name is Pamela, of I'll Say Yes events. We got certified at the same time. And we actually got certified in a different city. But we actually live in the same city. And so like we literally like got certified together and have just been like building our businesses side by side. And it's so funny because you think like, oh my gosh, two wedding planners, like what, like why would you do that? Like competition, right? But it's actually not. Like we have two totally different ideal brides. Like we are just so different, but so the same. So it's really been amazing.
And you can talk shop and they get you.
Yes, thanks. Yes. Like it's so amazing. And on top of that, like we genuinely have gotten to know each other, and like she knows my life, you know. So it's not just business, but she has helped my business a lot.
What do you think that, like, as you start to grow your business, I mean, you've been in business for a year, which is fantastic. What do you, not really like what's next, because that's, you know, I'll ask you that at the end of the show, but we still have time. But what are you kind of looking to do in the next 12 months or like the next 18 months? What do you kind of see yourself doing in your business?
I really want to like spread the joy of community over competition, especially in the wedding industry. I definitely feel like there are some organizations that have, you know, that mantra, but in the wedding industry, I still feel like it's a little hard. And I think, especially when it comes to wedding planners, I think that wedding planners really have this like, hey, I need this many weddings. Like, I would love to possibly maybe build a relationship, but not really because I don't know, you might take my bride, you know? Mm-hmm. And I just really want to spread the awareness that like community over competition is so beneficial for your business. And you can grow and still book all the brides if you have other wedding planner friends.
I like that. What do you want to do? So that's a good message. What are your personal business growth goals?
I think right now my personal business growth goals are probably just to continue to solidify my ideal client and like really match my brand voice with my ideal bride. And definitely continuing my client experience and up leveling it throughout the process. I think that's really it for now.
Those are great. Okay, first of all, I love that you don't have like 26 things on your list. And I think that those are really powerful. How did you decide, how did you make the connection between like your brand voice and your ideal client? Is that something that you just inherently know, or did you figure that out through like your relationships in the Bridal Society and getting certified? Tell us how you kind of came to that conclusion.
Yeah, I think that there was definitely a lot of trial and error because I think when I first started, I was like, oh, I'll just do all the weddings. Like, oh, any wedding. I don't care what kind of wedding, you know? Mm-hmm. And then when I actually really started working with brides and then certain types of brides that were just naturally attracted to me, I kind of realized like, wow, I do have like an ideal bride. Not that I won't do like other types of weddings, but I do have an ideal bride. I do have a certain personality type that meshes well with other certain personality types. And I truly like to meet and be there for certain types of brides who really value we have the same values, if that makes sense. And so I feel like, I think it took about 6 months into my business before I really kind of started to have that feeling like, wow, okay, I really have this type of bride. I really know what my values are, my core values for my business. And I really truly want to mesh and match up with brides who have those same values.
Yes. And it's really encouraging. I thank you for sharing that it took about like 6 months to come to that sort of that conclusion about that, because I think that sometimes, especially if you get into a community right away that has a lot of education, which is great, but it can also feel like, oh, yikes, I'm behind because I don't have all of these things set up. And I think it's so encouraging that we can take time. You know, it took Sacoya 6 months. I feel like we're still doing that for the venue. You know what I mean? And I think it's important to say those words and not just like, oh, yeah, we've got it all.
Yeah, no, I totally do not have it all.
Either.
Like, I do not. I'm still figuring it out along the way. And that's also another reason why I've tried to, like, when it comes to like goals and things like that, I definitely have like overarching like big goals, but I've also like tried to slow down and just look at them quarterly as well. Because I feel like when I first got started in business, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to have the 55 weddings and just these big things, and I really didn't look at the small steps that it took to get to those big things. So I think I really tried to slow down and just pay attention to those small steps and being more intentional. Like when you know your ideal bride, you know how to talk to her, you know how to give her the best client experience. And so I think those things are really important to get the bigger thing.
Well said. That reminds me of this book. It's called The Slight Edge. And I can't remember who wrote it. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes, but I think I've talked about it before. It's called The Slight Edge. And essentially the principle is that what actually makes progress is consistently doing the small things every day, exactly like you're talking about, rather than trying to make these huge leaps. You know, like, oh, next week I'm going to redo my entire website. So exactly what you're saying. It's just it's such a cool concept, and I really like that book. So I'll put it in the show notes, you guys, but it's called The Slight Edge, and it's literally just like expanding on the principle that Sacoya just told us about. It's really it's a really cool concept. So tell me about, let's go back to client experience a little bit, and then I have another question, but tell me, you told me off air that client experience, you're so passionate about it, and I can see why. And I think there's a lot of things. We've talked about client experience specifically, you know, even in whole episodes on the podcast, but in my mind, I feel like client experience it's more than just like, oh, we send a gift, 30 days before the wedding, or we do this, 6 months before the wedding, and, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like it's an entire feeling that they get from you. And you've really touched a lot on building a relationship with the human that is the bride and not just, her wedding day. Like, okay, you vendor, you go over here in this corner.
Yeah.
So tell me how you became so passionate about client experience, and how are you making that a focal point of your business?
Oh my gosh. Well, I personally feel like it started right before I started my business. So I was a bride at the time, as you know, and I actually had it was kind of a sad experience, not the worst thing ever, but I had a vendor, I won't say which one it is, and long story short, I ended up booking like one of the lower packages because I just didn't need like the higher one. It was like closer to my wedding date or whatever the case was. And I over time started following the person on Instagram and social media, and I saw that this person basically had a way that where if you book X package, you get this kind of experience and this kind of gift versus if you book this package. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I was a business owner, I would never want to make a person feel that way. And so I just decided that every single bride that I ever work with is always going to get the same experience. I don't care if she books the most expensive package versus the smallest package. That's part of my goals in my business. I want every single bride to feel like she is the most important girl in this moment in her life, and that she's important to me and that she's special and that I'm here for her. And so I think it really started just from that personal experience that I had when I was like, wow, I just did not feel special. I felt like I was just a number, and had I booked, this other package, maybe I would have been a higher number. And I just never want any bride to ever feel that way.
So pragmatically, how do you handle that in your business? So it sounds like you do offer different packages, or do you only offer one?
So I started off just offering the month of day off coordination, but I actually do offer 3 now. So kind of typical, I do the month of, and then I also offer partial planning and full planning. And for me, any package that a bride books with me starts from the time that she signs the contract. So at that point is when my client experience starts before then. But I always just provide the same experience to every single bride. It doesn't matter what package she books. And I think that that's one of the things that a lot of people, like you said, some people are just like, oh, we send out a gift on this date, or we send this kind of gift, for full planning versus this kind of gift for a month of. I don't do that because I just feel like I just don't like the message that it sends. I want everybody to feel the same. And so it's more than just a gift. I do send a gift because
of course. I was going to say that.
Who doesn't love the gift,
Yeah, oh my gosh, yes. Girl, my love language is gifts, so I'm fine with that. Well, I guess my question is then, what differentiates your packages?
Just the level of actual service that they receive throughout the process. So, for example, with month of coordination, I do allow them to reach out to me and ask questions and kind of have consultations throughout the process. But I'm not the one that's actually helping to book their vendors. Whereas with my partial and full planning packages, I would actually go to appointments, find vendors for them, and do things like that. So that part of it, in terms of the actual service they're going to receive, is a little bit different. But in terms of their experience and how I treat my brides, every single bride is going to experience the same. I want all of my brides to feel like I'm their best friend.
I'm totally with you. That's cool. Do you find that this is what I wanted to ask you. And I realized, you're a teacher, so you have summers off, but I don't actually know if summer is your peak season. I feel like it probably is, but how are you I don't want to say balanced because I feel like that's a unicorn, but how are you being a teacher and a wedding planner? What does that look like?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. It's good. So yeah, we have summers off, which is awesome. But it's so funny because I live in the South, and for some reason, Southern girls do not like to get married in the summers here.
Because they're sweating. That's why.
Yeah. So I actually did not know that before last year, before I started. So when I initially started, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome because I'm going to have all the weddings in the summer when I'm off. It's going to be great. And then I realized that that's actually not how it works here. So that was one of the funnier things about first year in business, finding out peak seasons and that kind of stuff. But with my schedule being a teacher, I definitely have a lot of flexibility. And so I get off earlier in the day, so I'm still able to kind of do vendor meetings. And also a lot of my brides work. And so it's easier for them. They want to meet with me after 5 because they're off, they're sitting in traffic. And so it just works out during the week for me. And then my weekends are just dedicated to my weddings.
So when is the peak? Okay, that's neat. When is the peak season for you?
So definitely now through June, and then it picks back up in September, October.
Oh, that's so interesting. I love to hear
when different
peak seasons are for people.
It's so weird. I was I just knew I was going to have all the summer weddings. And then I was like, wait, that's off season? What?
What's happening?
I just thought I was going to have all the weddings in the summertime. And then I started going to venues and they're yeah, no, June and July and August is not really that's off season. And I was like, what?
Wait a minute.
No idea.
I guess I wouldn't have guessed that either, but it does make sense because it's so hot.
I know it's so weird, but these are the things that your first year in business, who do you ask these things? Nobody knows, right? You just have to figure it out.
Okay, that's such a good point. I heard this from someone and I adopted it, is that I feel like sometimes in business and just in general, we all do it. I think it's human nature, but we always feel like we need to assume the outcome of stuff. We need to know what this outcome is in order to make this decision. And a lot of times you can't do that. You kind of just have to go through the motions. I don't say that to say that we kind of just need to let our business lead us wherever it's going to go. I don't think that, because I think it is important to be intentional, and I think you can build a business around the kind of lifestyle that you want. But I do think that some of these things you kind of just have to learn in the moment, and then you can pivot and make choices from there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's also just how you just grow and become better. Because if you know everything up front, you'll be scared and you won't want to start. And you're like, oh no, I'm going to wait till this happens and I'll wait till that happens. And it just doesn't always work out like that. So I totally agree.
Oh, good point. Oh my gosh, yes. Because you're a teacher, so if you would have known before you got started, like, nope, no weddings happen in the summer, do you feel like you would have made a different decision?
Yeah, I would have been like, oh, never mind. Like, I'm not doing this. And it's so funny because I actually do have some summer weddings this year. So there's still weddings, but it's just not like the peak season that I had assumed it was going to be. So it's just funny because I definitely have still weddings for this summer. For July, I have 3 already. So I'm like, oh, I'm not doing too bad. Um, they're indoors though because of the heat. So yeah, I think if I would have known that it wasn't peak season, I definitely probably wouldn't have started. And I would have been like, oh, I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to make the weddings. And so sometimes it's best to just get started. Just make your GoDaddy website and start.
That poor GoDaddy. We're like slamming them on this podcast today. Like, I love it just every time.
I
My
love
GoDaddy
them.
website.
They started my business.
They did. Well, and I just actually at the time this airs, because I said that I'm going to turn it around and publish it. We had Leah Weinberg on the podcast just Tuesday of this week, which, as we talk, you guys, it's March 21st. But she uses GoDaddy for, did she say GoDaddy? Yeah, GoDaddy for her accounting or bookkeeping or something. And I was like, what? And she was like, literally, that's the reaction I get from every person that I tell that to, but she loves it.
If it wasn't for them, I would never have booked my first 2 amazing brides who I like literally love. Like I'm still talking to them to this day.
Oh my, okay. So we love GoDaddy. GoDaddy, if you're listening, we love you.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's such good advice to end on. It's just just do it. Like get your website up there. Don't worry about what it looks like right now. You can figure all that out later. And you were just so darn passionate about this business. I can like feel it through the computer.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so happy to have you on. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm just so excited and elated. I can't wait to hear it tomorrow.
You are so welcome. Tell everybody where they can find you online.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. So my business name is Jenkins & Co. Wedding Coordination. My Instagram is Jenkins & Co. Weddings, JENKINS. I'm sure Kinsey will put it in the show notes.
You know I will.
And yeah, that's where you can find me. Follow along. Be my friend. I love making new friends. You ask me all the questions. Yes. I will help you along the way.
You're amazing, Sacoya. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.